Paul Woolmington is the co-chair of the event, so I'll let you take it away, Paul. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Drew. Yeah, really great conference. I hope everyone's agreed. Really brilliant night last night, wasn't it? This is going to be a great session. I'd like to introduce Chris Satchell. Chris is, we had an interesting discussion yesterday about CTOs and CIOs and CMOs. Well, actually, Chris has got a very cool title. He's a CCTO, Chief Consumer Technology Officer at Nike, and he took that role about a year ago.
Yep.
And the other thing I should apologize is we've got two British accents up here, so I was going to channel my inner Silicon Valley, but I wasn't really quite sure what accent that would be, but an apology in advance on that. Chris has had an illustrious career. He's held a number of positions in the gaming industry and at Microsoft, and I was going to really open it up to ask Chris the first question, which is, just give us a little flavor for the journey, your career journey, some of the highlights, some of the positions you've held, and what got you to Nike.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here. I should definitely pick conferences where speakers are not as good as here. It's always hard to go on after such great talks, but I think illustrious career means you never effed up badly enough to get fired from anywhere. So fail small, but no, I grew up in video games. I'm from a small town in the southwest of England, which mostly means you're very relieved to not anymore live in a small town in the southwest of England. And somehow got into, I was an absolute geek growing up, spent more hours than you should do programming games. I used to like playing, but I loved building. And I got to tell you, nothing makes you cooler in high school than 6 hours of programming a day. But my other hobbies, and I was talking to Brian, we were talking about this last night, was my other hobbies were martial arts and weightlifting, which if you're going to be a geek, pick those two hobbies. They're really useful. But I ended up doing a classic role. I did CS, and then I got into video games, which amazed me that somebody would pay me to do that, but they were paying me to write artificial intelligence, which was my postgrad study, and then just ended up working my way around the video game industry until I got to Xbox. And I think one of the career highlights was launching Xbox 360, with the exec team there, working with Jay Allard, and really building up Xbox Live was incredible as well. Because when we started it, and it's very relevant for this, it was a whole new way to engage with the gaming customer that people said wouldn't work. Console gamers didn't want to engage, didn't want to be connected, and we didn't believe that at Microsoft. So we challenged that, and it worked extremely well. Then, after a lifetime in video games, I thought, what could you do next? Well, the obvious thing was to go and live in Las Vegas and work in the gambling business. And I'm English, so I will bet on anything you put in front of me. And if you've been to England and looked at a bookie shop, like horse racing games, that's just the start of it. We will bet on, the sex of the royal baby. We actually bet, there was a big thing going on in the UK, who shot JR? And if you're old enough to remember that, huge pool in the UK.
Absolutely huge.
So working actually,
there's a bookie on every street corner, and Paddy Power. In fact, we were talking last night. Paddy Power's all over.
It's incredible. And you just grew up with this. You just walk down the street betting everywhere. So, it was a very demanding. Is anybody from the casino industry here? Okay, I can say it. Very demanding set of customers to deal with. That really kind of get in the way of servicing the end consumer. And I always grew up B2C, and I love servicing the consumer. I think that's where the excitement is. And so when you have an organization in between that wants to, in their turn, protect that consumer, it makes it very hard. So after about 3.5 years of that, I decided I needed to get closer to the customer again. And Nike called me, and eventually I called them back on the sort of behalf of a recruiter I knew, because I thought, why the hell would Nike be calling me? It must be a wrong number. You don't want a CTO. What do you want a CTO for? And they encouraged me to talk to them. And then I really found out what Nike was doing. And it was pretty magical. The idea that, our brand skews young. We're 15 years old is the core of our brand. And we sell to everybody. Are we doing a selfie right now? Just checking.
I'm getting the amplifier. I'm twittering.
I would pose better if you were. But the key with Nike is, look, the consumer has gone digital. Forget going digital. They are digital. And if you're a brand, you no longer can only connect with somebody in a pure physical way or through outbound advertising. You have to connect digitally. And I think it's even stronger than that. We're going into a phase where if you don't connect digitally, you're not even a brand in people's eyes. And you could see it when you did the brand power studies recently, like Google's at the top, Amazon's at the top. People here have asked me, like, who do you compete with? You say Under Armour, you can say Adidas. By the way, if you ever come to our campus, do not wear Adidas. You will be escorted off campus, and I'm not kidding. If you're an employee, you will likely get fired. We're a little brand-centric at Nike. But when you think about, for attention, who we really compete with, it hit me this morning. We compete with Google. We compete with Amazon. We compete with all the other big brands. With Intel, they've got an incredible brand. And so that's the people we're competing with, and you have to have that digital connection. It's the only way to truly understand the consumer now and be relevant for them. And I said, sorry for the long intro. Last thing I'd say is, one of the things that I've really tried to convince people at Nike, and I think we all get it now, is you sort of say, you've got your brand, and the swoosh is a wonderful brand. And then you have your digital connection, and we've got apps, and we've got e-commerce, and we've got .com. And we sort of treated them differently. And one of the big things to understand is your digital presence does equal your brand, even if you're a physical goods manufacturer like we are. Even if you sponsor the best athletes in the world, run the best events, run marathons, have stores all over the world, to a lot of people, what you do digitally is your brand. And so it must live up to the brand quality and the brand promise. And that was something really big we had to take on board.
I wanted to pick up on the role itself. There was, again, a discussion yesterday about the role of different functions, how those functions are changing. Being that this is a new role at Nike, we talked a little bit yesterday about it. Tell us a little bit, and tell the group a little bit about the interrelationship you have with some of your counterparts, CIO, CMO, and also you've just literally, the paint is drying on the new offices. If anyone's ever been to Beaverton and actually been on the campus, it's an amazing campus. But actually, Chris has been leading the charge with a couple of his colleagues, and they're moving a whole group into a new building on the campus. So that might also get into not just the macro role, but literally the physical day-to-day operations and how you're innovating in the way that you work and collaborate.
So it's a very rich question, and so with the role, I mean, one of the things that Nike realized, which I thought was very perceptive of them for a company that doesn't come from technology, was that the CTO role, whether it's called Consumer Technology Officer or Chief Technology Officer, but if you deal with customer-facing technology, do not have your internal IT group do that. And I apologize for anybody who's in IT, but it's a different customer set, it's different technologies, different expectations. Importantly as well, and if you're a big corporation, this really starts to matter, different penalties for failure. If you look at European law and you look at where states are going, your penalties for breaking trust with the consumer are extreme now. And you probably saw the voting in Europe recently. I'm not quite sure whether the law landed, but they were trying to push for 100 million euros or was 100 million euros or 5 or 10% of revenue as a penalty for leaking customer information. So if you're, like us, a $26 billion company, that could get a little expensive, and I don't think the shareholders would really understand. So what they knew is just to service the customer in the way that not only the customer expects, but the sort of the environment we're in, you have to split the roles. So the first thing we did is say, okay, consumer technology is different pace, different way you go to market. Let's split that out. And then the way it works is I partner with some amazing people. So like if you might know Stefan Olander, who really leads the charge on our sport and fuel band and those devices. Christiana Shi, Davide De Grasso, so Christiana runs all of our direct-to-consumer, so our stores. She's the business owner for stores for e-commerce, m-commerce. Davide, who runs marketing at Nike, he's the head of brand. And so we partner, the four of us, and we really run what we'd call a digital offense. By the way, if you're at Nike, everything's got to be a sporting term. So we don't have like go-to-market plans. We have offense. So our digital offense is the four of us. But what really gets to the heart of the question is, if you came to our offices, you'd be very, very hard-pressed to work out who's in my team and who's in Stefan's team, who's in Cristiano or Davide's team and who's in tech. Because the key is you have to put these people together. And so if you're in development, everybody does Agile now, right? You're used to, okay, we put a team together, we have daily stand-up meetings, you do 2-week iterations. But the key is getting the teams together. So you put creative, you put business, you put dev, you put ops, you put everybody needed to bring an experience back-end, front-end together, and you physically locate them, and they meet every day. You don't go to And this was hard for us to make a transition. We used to be classic work with agencies, right? So you brief in, and they get a pitch back, and you iterate, and eventually you build. Well, that's not how agencies work. That's just how they de-gear to work with big companies who want to work like they're in old school advertising. How you really have to work is like agencies truly work and like video game companies work. You put these teams together, and you have them co-located, and you forget organizational boundaries. It's very hard for somebody at Nike to have one manager. Generally, people have 2 or 3 people they report to. So all my directs, maybe solid line to me in SAP, but they're dotted line very strongly to the business owners. And in fact, what I tell them is, if you have to prioritize spending time with your business partner or me, spend time with your business partner. That's the important connection. We're connect anyway. So what we did with West Campus is, as we're starting to build out these buildings, is we actually made this physically real. So what we said is, okay, let's give a team a room where they can own it. They can do whatever they want with it. They want to put stuff up on the walls. They want to rip out the tables. They want to put beanbags in. They don't want to put beanbags in. It's their room all the time for them to use with whatever they need. Then we co-located, so business is mixed with dev, which is mixed with creative. And the groups are mixed. So most of my teams don't sit in the building I'm in. They're out with their partners. And so we work in that sort of very interleaved way. And it is a very, and it seems almost trite, but it is a team philosophy. We're here to win. By the way, Nike doesn't like not winning. Never seen a company that's more fixated on being number one everywhere, and it's fun. But if you're in that to win, you don't really care where you report. You don't care, who your manager is. What you care about is are you going to do the right thing for the business and the customer? Not in that order. In Nike, it's customer, brand, business, always in that order.
No, that's fascinating. I think we could all learn a lot from that. Another topic that we chatted about, and I guess it's we live in an age of a lack of trust, and I guess one of the great breaches in trust, where technology was playing a big role in it in the United States, and it's having massive reverberations, is Obamacare and everything else. But
I think the NSA did their part as well.
Yeah. And it filters all the way through, this trust and authenticity. Chris has been espousing a very interesting philosophy internally at Nike, which is, I'll just give you the headline, but really the question to Chris is trust equals use. Could you elaborate on that? Because I think it's absolutely fascinating. I think the audience would love to hear a bit about that.
Cool. By the way, this is one of those things where I'm just hoping if I say it enough, it will become true and will be good. But I think just cast your minds back. It used to be, for a lot of services or products, it was money equals use. Could you afford it? If you could afford it, then you'd use it. And then the price of services drops, price of objects drop over time, freemium comes in, and then it was time equals use. Okay, if I've got enough time, I will use a product or service. But I think we're going into a phase that will be very transformational, which is trust equals use. It won't be, can I afford it? It won't be, do I have the time? It's, how much do I trust you? Privacy, a few years ago, we used to talk about this a lot at Microsoft. A few years ago, you could buy somebody's privacy for about $2.50. You'd say, can I have all your information? No. But if I give you a voucher for $2, oh, okay, you can have my information, that's fine. You imagine if you did that to somebody now, how much would it cost for you to say, I violate, you can just have all my information? Well, it's a Google search, but other than that, if people are really starting to worry about their privacy and start to worry about the security of what happens, and so I think trust both digitally, can I really trust that you're holding my data correctly? Trust with a brand. Are you authentic? Are you doing anything that sort of breaks this relationship? And it can be as simple as, if you feel you've got a relationship with a company, and I know that we've all got to have business models, but you're giving me something, now you've taken it away unless I pay you, that can be a violation of trust. Now, it might be a necessary violation for you to have business, but understand that you're breaking a trust link there. And I think the more you trust a brand, the more you'll use a brand in the future. And so that's really something quite transformational about how we think about operating, both in how we treat the customer, but also how we protect them when they use our products.
Yeah. Now this also evolves into the debate about bearing in mind you're a technologist, but you're a consumer-centered technologist. Provocative statement, I think we were chatting about. Marketing is dead, service is king. Talk a little bit about that, because
I wasn't going to bring that one up in this audience.
And maybe weave into, I don't know whether you can or not, but I mean, obviously, FuelBand was a great example of at the sizzle end of the product offering and technology offering, showing how Nike's getting. I mean, this is marketing that gives every single day, and I'd just love to your philosophy, but also how that's percolating through Nike, and whether that's going to have much bigger ramifications for the marketing industry generally. Your point of view on that?
Yeah, and to be clear, this is a criticism. This isn't a Nike statement, but it's to be deliberately provocative, and it's something we talk about internally. When I say sort of marketing is dead, long live service, all I mean is, and I think a lot of people in this room listening to how people talk, we all kind of get it, but it's not always your company that gets it. It's you need to provide service to a customer before you ask for the sale. Classic kind of old technique, but we can forget in the digital age. It's I want to provide value to you. I want to start a relationship with you. I'm not going to rush to sell you something. That will come. But how do I service you first? I don't need to give you messages. I need to give you value. So we very much center around that. FuelBand's interesting in that, it's great being voted the most innovative company in the world. That was cool, and it was primarily for Flyknit, which is an amazing technology, and for FuelBand. And there's great tech that goes into this. But be clear, we're a footwear and apparel company. Technology is a means to an end to us, and I think Mark said it last night, and it was a very astute comment amongst a lot of very astute comments, but one of them was, sensing's commodity. The fact that we will have sensors on us that can do all sorts of things is a commodity. The fact that you add heart rate isn't really innovative. It just means that your measurements are getting better. The real magic, and what we all have to do, I believe, if you're in the world of sensing, isn't can you scan somebody. It's what do you do afterwards? What do you want to do with it? For us, it's how do we motivate you? How can we make you a better athlete? We have our mission at Nike is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And there's little asterisks, because it's something Bill Bowerman said. And the asterisk is, if you have a body, you're an athlete. So when we say we want to make every athlete better, we mean everybody. And so the real magic that we feel we can bring, and when you think about sensing, it's not the device. There's lots of people that can make awesome devices. It's, okay, how do you take the data and how do you make it meaningful? How do you motivate day after day? How do you help people improve? How do you take them on a journey that's meaningful for them? That's really the key. So for us, this is an enabler. This is really how do we, because our mission is with digital is to know the customer as well as we can, and through that knowledge, serve the customer as well as we can. Serve them with information, with motivation, with our products, with events, with services, with inspiration. And this is one of the ways to unlock it. There's a lot of ways, but this is a powerful one for us.
But I've got to answer the question. I mean, we all love shiny objects. So this being, one of the wonderful shiny objects, certainly has been for me for about 18 months. But give us a little bit of a glimpse into both the shiny objects, but also some of the bigger initiatives that you've got going on that you can talk about. I mean, what is the next iterations of this? What are the other things that you're working on that are cool or are purpose-driven or are product innovation? Just any things that you can give us a little glimpse. And we're talking about, by the way, I should have said it, Fast Company voted or in their estimation said that Nike was the #1 most innovative company globally this year, and I think that proves out by lots of things. So what's coming through?
Well, unfortunately, that is the what we're doing with physical devices is probably something I can't talk about. We keep that pretty close.
Go on. No one's listening.
But what you will see from us is kind of what I've said. This is scanning, right? The experience is a collection. It isn't just this. It's the application you have on your phone. It may be a website you interact with. I would say, I think we all know it. A lot less over time. We are seeing a seismic shift to mobile away from the web, actually, both through the commerce sites and through even how people interact with here. Unless you happen to be an Android customer, I apologize to all Android customers. We know we'll get to it because Fuel is only on iPhone at the moment. Running isn't, so go get the running app. What you'll see us do is take Fuel and make it more meaningful. Okay, so you've got a sensor. This sensor can do, we got a lot of science to know what you're doing and importantly the intensity you do it at. Now we can start breaking that down. We can give dimensions to your fitness and dimensions to your improvements. You'll see us do a lot of software experiences on top. The other really big initiative for us, and maybe everybody in the room gets this and we were a little slow, but it's to be, you can be very consumer-centric and still show up to the consumer with your org structure every day. So if you go inside out, you can be very focused on the consumer, but if you focus in your pillars and silos and channels, you end up being very fragmented. And I think the customer is running out of patience for that. What they want is a relationship with a brand. So if you're a brand like us, like other people in the room with lots of channels, whether it's events, whether it's your own stores, partner stores, whether it's web commerce, whether it's mobile commerce, whether it's applications to inspire, to innovate, to serve, you've got all these channels. But if you're a customer, you have no idea why the company wouldn't understand you across every channel perfectly, and how, well, to give an example, you may sync 300 runs with us in a year. You walk into a Nike town at the moment, we have no idea that you did that. I think that's frustrating. Like, so I walk in, it's like I've synced 300 runs with you guys. I've got a lot of miles there, and I've been doing it for years. I walk in and you say, oh, are you interested in football cleats? Like, are you mad? I sync 300 runs with you guys. And so one of the things that we're really doing is we call it seamless, people call it omni-channel, whatever, but truly seamless. You've got to come customer in and think, how do I give a unified presence to that customer in every channel, however they want to interact? And no interaction and no data should ever get lost in that ecosystem. And each piece of that needs to go to better understanding of the consumer. And then the difficult piece is take action on it. And you see this, and somebody said about big data yesterday, and we're past big data. But to me, it's like collecting data is trivial and easy. You get a lot of data. Throw it in Hadoop, who cares? Getting insight from data is much harder. But you can get there. The real challenge is at the other end of the pipe, which is turning insight into action. So our other big initiative is how do we get true insights to every endpoint in the company, whether it's an application, whether it's an in-store athlete serving a customer, somebody running an event. How do we get the information there and turn it into real tangible service? And that's one of those two big things we're working on at the moment.
That's great. That's great. We've got a couple of minutes, so I'd love to throw it open to the audience. And Mark, is there a microphone for Mark?
Ah.
Oh no, just there.
I know you guys are bringing the accelerator down here to San Francisco, and so with a culture that's got DNA of innovation, is being recognized for innovation. And now you're looking outside your walls. How do you guys approach that, think about that, and engage in this ecosystem down here?
It's a great question. Let's see if I can give an even reasonable answer. So part of our philosophy, if you think about what I've been saying about we want to know the customer and serve them. And the good thing is we don't have to sell applications. We don't even really, we do this, but we sell shoes and apparel. We sell a lot of shoes and apparel. I'm amazed how many shoes we sell. And so that frees us up to really partner with people in ways that perhaps other companies couldn't. So for us, it's like, hey, all we want to know is a deeper relationship. So if you can find value by plugging into that ecosystem of sports science, of fuel data, et cetera, or even through our commerce sites, we're more than happy to partner. So we can be it gives us a lot of flexibility because we're not trying to extract direct value out of any of those ecosystems. We just want to know the customer and be able to serve them with our core products and with motivation. In terms of plugging into San Francisco, I used to live here. My last job, I had a dev office up in the city, a fairly big development organization. And there's great innovation here. I think the thing that we struggle with that we've got to learn is pace. So we can be innovative, but it is still a $26 billion company, which isn't as big as some in the room. But I think the guys from Intel would appreciate this as well. I mean, the other Portland company, Beaverton company, sorry, Hillsborough, I guess they go farther out. But that would suck. So the thing that we struggle with is just plugging into the pace. What we don't appreciate is how fast you guys move. And you've got a big company in Beaverton. It's like, you want to do what, when? But we've got 5 levels of committees to go through. We love committees. And so and this is something we're learning. We know we have to learn it. And so it's really, how do we find an engagement? And I think it's important to have a presence here. And honestly, I think it's important to have a presence in New York. I see these two places now is where innovation's happening. You get a lot of retail innovation on the East Coast, West Coast, a lot of digital. And so our view is, let's create platforms that allow people to innovate at their own pace so we don't slow you down with bureaucracy. And that's really what we've put together for the accelerator for early next year.
Fantastic. Well, a big vote of gratitude for Chris for coming, being one of our inaugural keynote interviews. Thank you, Chris. A round of applause for Chris. And
Thank you.
Thanks, Thank you, buddy.